Ever get hit with those rolling blackouts in California back in the early 2000s? I mean, the ones that just crippled the state.
Yeah.
Well, what if I told you a company was behind it all? Like a big, seemingly legit energy giant. They were actually, get this, manipulating the whole energy market to make a buck at the expense of millions.
Wow.
Yeah, and that company was Enron. Today, we're going deep into their rise and their even crazier fall.
It's a wild story. Really captures how excessive and arrogant things were back then in the late 20th century. Enron, they started out simple, a pipeline company. Just moving natural gas around, basic stuff.
You'd think, right? But that's where things get interesting. It's like they were hiding right there in the open, all boring, dependable energy company on the surface, but behind the scenes, plotting to take over Wall Street.
Totally. Then comes Jeffrey Skilling. Consultant, big ideas. He saw deregulation of energy as like an opening, a chance for Enron to become a financial beast.
Okay, so what was his plan?
His big idea, a virtual gas bank, a trading platform for, energy futures.
So they became the middleman, cashing in on how much energy prices jumped around.
You got it. And for a while, brilliant. Enron stock went through the roof, especially during the dot-com boom. Investors were throwing money at anything that seemed, well, innovative.
They rode that wave, didn't they? Even though a lot of their non-energy stuff was tanking. Like, they tried broadband, even teaming up with Blockbuster for video streaming, right?
Yeah, total flops. But Enron had a trick up their sleeve. Mark-to-market accounting. It's like, imagine valuing your house based on what you think it'll be worth in, 10 years, even though who knows what'll happen to the market.
Risky.
Big time. That's what Enron was doing, hiding their losses with it.
So basically, pumping up their earnings to keep investors happy and the stock price high.
Exactly. It was a house of cards. Could only last as long as they kept making new deals, finding new ways to hide the debt piling up, and this is where things get dark. To keep up that illusion, Enron started getting into some shady, risky stuff.
And nothing shows that better than what they did during the California energy crisis.
No.
It's wild, a company actually causing blackouts to jack up prices.
Oh, but they did. They had a plan called Death Star, messing with the energy flow on purpose, creating shortages so prices would shoot up. Think about your energy bill. What if it spiked overnight because of some company's scheme?
That's outrageous. Californians got hit hard, businesses closed, people struggling to keep their lights on. And Enron, they're making billions.
And get this, there were whistleblowers, people inside Enron trying to sound the alarm. Imagine that, being that lawyer, seeing all the accounting tricks, trying to warn everyone, and nobody listens.
Their warnings just ignored. A culture of silence, like everyone was too scared to speak up against this giant company.
Exactly. Power and greed corrupting even the most respectable places. But you know what they say? Truth always comes out.
And for Enron, it was a journalist, Bethany McLean. She started pulling at the thread that would unravel it all.
McLean, she was writing for Fortune magazine, asked a simple question. How does Enron actually make money? No one at Enron could give a straight answer. Her article, Is Enron Overpriced? That was the first crack in their facade.
One article, that's all it took to start bringing down a giant like Enron.
Yeah, McLean's article really hit a nerve. Investors started asking questions, analysts were looking at their financials, and then the SEC, they started an investigation.
Oh, so it wasn't like one big thing, more like a bunch of little things chipping away at Enron.
Exactly. Like pulling a loose thread on a sweater, the whole thing unravels. And that's what happened to Enron. First, Skilling, he up and quit, said he wanted to spend more time with his family.
Yeah, right.
Total BS. Then, a few months later, they say they're changing their earnings. For the past 4 years, admitted they were cooking the books.
Like they thought they could just keep getting away with it, huh?
Yeah, but reality always catches up. And for Enron, it was brutal. Stock price tanked, investors bailed, and boom, bankruptcy. One of the biggest corporate collapses ever.
It's just sad. All those employees, they put their life savings in Enron stock.
Yeah.
Lost everything, jobs, retirement, all gone. While the guys at the top, they walked away with millions.
Classic story, corporate greed, and how it hurts everyday people. And you know what's even worse? The execs, yeah, they faced charges, but the system, the thing that allowed it all to happen, that didn't really change.
So even with guys like Fasto and Skilling going to jail, the system itself got off scot-free.
Pretty much Fasto, the CFO, he got 10 years. Made a deal, cooperated with the authorities, Skilling. He was sentenced to 24 years, but got it reduced to 14. But the focus was all on them, not on how the system failed.
What about Ken Lay, the CEO? Didn't he say he had no idea what was going on?
Lay, he said he was innocent, got convicted of fraud and conspiracy, but then heart attack, Died a few weeks later before sentencing.
So he never really faced justice.
No.
But what about Arthur Andersen, their accounting firm? Weren't they supposed to be watching Enron, keeping them honest?
Perhaps Arthur Andersen, they went down to convicted of obstruction of justice, shredded documents about the Enron case.
Wow.
Yeah, the conviction was overturned later, but the firm was done. 85,000 people lost their jobs because of Enron.
That's insane. Shows just how big the impact was.
Huge. It wasn't just one company going under. It was about trust in the system that's supposed to protect investors and keep things fair. And all happening a few years before the 2008 crisis just made things worse.
So did any good come out of all this? Any lessons learned? Anything to stop it from happening again?
Well, Congress passed the Sarbanes-Oxley Act in 2002 after the scandal. Stricter rules for auditing firms, CEOs and CFOs had to personally sign off on financials, and they created a board to oversee the accounting industry.
Sounds like a good start. Did it really fix the problem, though?
That's the question, isn't it? Sarbanes-Oxley made the accounting tricks harder to pull off, but the real problem, the focus on short-term profits, that's still there.
So you're saying the rules encourage companies to cut corners, put profits over doing the right thing.
Yeah, it's like a game where cheating is rewarded, even if it breaks the whole system. And that's what Enron shows us, how messed up things can get.
So what can we do? What can stop another Enron?
First, close those loopholes, the ones that let companies mess with accounting rules and manipulate the market. Then, tougher penalties for corporate crimes. Make execs think twice.
Because right now it seems like they get a slap on the wrist, while people who do much less get punished way harder.
You're right. The punishment should fit the crime. And what these guys do, the damage is huge. We also need to help whistleblowers, the people who risk everything to expose what's wrong. Give them real protection so they can speak up without being afraid.
Takes guts to go against the people in charge, especially when your job's on the line.
Absolutely. We all got to create a culture where speaking up is okay.
Yeah.
But maybe the most important thing, we need ethical leaders in business.
So it's not just about rules. It's about changing how they think, what they value.
Exactly. Leaders who care about doing things right, being transparent, and thinking long-term, not just about making a quick buck. Leaders who know that being ethical isn't just good for everyone else, it's good for business, too.
Because in the end, we need businesses to act responsibly, not just chase profits, right?
Absolutely. Enron, it shows us what happens when greed wins and nobody's held accountable. It's a lesson we can't forget.
It makes you think, are we really any safer from another Enron these days? Did we actually learn anything?
It's the big question, yeah. Sarbanes-Oxley, it made things tougher, but that core problem, those messed up incentives, they're still around.
What do you mean by messed up incentives?
Well, think about it. The whole system, even now, it rewards quick wins, not long-term thinking. Execs got to hit those quarterly numbers, stock prices are everything, and it's all about making shareholders happy, even if it means screwing everything else.
So the rules kind of push companies to cut corners, put profits over ethics.
Exactly. It's like the game is rigged for cheaters, even if it breaks the whole thing. And that's Enron's real legacy. It showed us how bad it can get.
So what can we do? How do we stop another Enron?
Well, first, close those loopholes. The ones that let companies mess with the books, manipulate the markets, then hit them where it hurts. Tougher penalties for corporate crimes make those execs really think twice.
Because now it's like they get a slap on the wrist, right? Well, people who do way less, they get hammered.
Exactly. The punishment should fit the crime, and these corporate crimes, they can wreck lives. And we got to protect the whistleblowers, those brave people who risk it all to expose the truth. Give them real protection so they can speak out without fear.
It takes guts to go up against the big guys, especially when your job's on the line.
No doubt. We all have to create a culture where people feel safe speaking up. But maybe the most important thing, we need ethical leaders in the business world.
So it's not just laws, it's about how they think, their values.
You got it. Leaders who care about doing the right thing, being open and honest, thinking long term, not just chasing that quick buck. Leaders who get that being ethical isn't just good for everyone else, it's good for business in the long run.
Because ultimately, we need businesses that act responsibly, right? Not just focused on profits, no matter the cost.
Absolutely. Enron, it's a warning. What happens when greed takes over and nobody's accountable? We can't forget that.
Well said. Great way to wrap things up. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Enron. Complex story, dark story, but important lessons in there for everyone.
My pleasure. Hope it gets people thinking, staying informed, asking tough questions. Because the fight for ethical, accountable businesses, that never ends.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the Enron scandal, make sure to subscribe to the Deep Dive for more explorations of history's hidden truths. See how they connect to the world today. We'll be back next week with another fascinating story. Until then, stay curious.